let's do away with the hard numbers first. In ASEAN alone, we have something like 600 million people, but how many of these 600 million people do you think suffer from a disability? 10%? Quite close to it, but officially the numbers is only about 2.7%, which is a huge, huge number in itself. It's 17 million. Yeah, so 17 million is quite a lot. But what are the lives of these 17 million people like in ASEAN, given our background, given who we are as Southeast Asians, how we look at disability, what happens? Within Southeast Asia, disability is often a topic that's very much hidden at home. We don't see a lot of disabled people. In fact, this morning at breakfast, I was speaking to a lady that was living in Hong Kong for a while. She said she fell down and hurt her leg. And was on crutches for a little while, and she felt so out of place because nobody opened the door, nobody helped. This lady's from the US, nobody helped her open the door, kept the door open, or everybody looked at her strangely. It's like there were no disabled people around, and she asked me, how come it's so strange in Asia? Do you all have that feeling as well, that you don't really see disabled people out there in the community? Yeah, that's because many of them are very well taken care of by family and friends at home. It's not that we don't have an education. Many of us do have an education, but we are very much mollycoddled. The attitude is very much towards taking care of, providing for the disabled person. As a result, the mindset for a disabled person is very much rooted in dependency on our caregivers. And imagine this, not just the disabled person isn't out there working, but the family members who are taking care of these disabled people, they perhaps work part-time, not as able to reach their full potential and do everything they can do. Do we have ASEAN leaders? Do we have ASEAN disabled people that are in the community contributing to our economy, contributing to our community, to the society, to everything in day-to-day life? The answer is yes, but not many of us, right? If we look at employment rate within Southeast Asia, people with a disability that are gainfully employed, first and foremost, that's quite a small number as well, because like in Singapore, right, the employment rate for disabled people is something like 12%. Not unemployment, but employment. And out of this 12% of the employment rate, right, that we're looking at, many of these disabled people are not exactly working at full capacity either. They're probably working in a sheltered workshop, making baskets, bicycle parts, different things like that, earning a meager handout. The lowest that was recorded very recently in a study done in Singapore was $130 US in a month. And that's in an environment in Singapore where the median personal income is $2,800 US. So there's a huge, huge gap. And disability is something that is difficult and expensive. It's expensive to be disabled anywhere that you live in the world, because we have to deal with our rising medical costs as well as adapting our lives to be able, like for example, for me to use a computer, I have to get another software so that the computer can talk, and all of this adds up to the cost. But in the bigger picture, how do we reverse this economy of disability, this minimum of a $2 billion annual investment by the entire ASEAN? What is it achieving? Not much at this stage in time. How do we make it achieve something? Australia has a 53% employment rate for disabled people. Japan has a 40% rate of employment for disabled people. Why can't Southeast Asia do better? What's missing in the ingredient? In my opinion, and what I've done, what I've realized, what I've seen in the past, it's very much the attitude. Given that sort of sympathy, mollycoddle sort of attitude, how do we change that attitude from that to that of empowerment and empathy, being able to give our disabled people an opportunity to reach their full potential in life, giving them opportunity to education, to employment, to participate. A study done by the UN some time ago talked about if more disabled people can work and they are paid on an equal level as their able-bodied peers, GDP of these countries can raise between 1% to 7%. But if we look at it very conservatively, just 1% within Asia itself there will be a huge $80 billion increase in our GDP. So what's stopping us from doing it, and how do we get there? What we're going to do is spend the next couple of minutes, perhaps first and foremost, let me just answer some questions that there may be from the audience, and then maybe we can discuss a little bit further on how we can achieve this. Well, first and foremost, what we have done all this time is we have spent money keeping, in one form or another, our disabled people in environments where we take care of them. So be it handouts, social support, family support, put them in institutions. This costs us money, costs quite a lot of money if we think about it. 17 million disabled people, just $10 a month, that's $2 billion annually ASEAN collectively puts towards this. But if we can give them the skills to be able to work, give them the ability, give them the opportunity to be able to work, they not only gain a sense of achievement for themselves, because I think all of us are quite entitled to that, isn't it? When we are born, when we grow up, or even for our kids, when we see our kids grow up, we want the best for them, and we want them to be able to achieve something. That's where they feel fulfilled in life and be equal contributing members. So in that sense, when we can give disabled people that opportunity, it not only elevates the yoke that is placed on, that disability places on society, it can also help increase the productivity, the economy of communities that are more open and inclusive towards disabled people. Not just giving disabled people a simple job and giving them a bit of a charity handout, but looking at more equal employment opportunities, how we can modify the workplace. You know, sometimes it takes very, very simple and small modifications, like adjusting the height of the desk for someone that's on a wheelchair, and it can cost private companies as little as $80 US to modify the workplace for somebody like that to be able to work. And moreover, the other thing which we are looking at is also giving the disabled person enough skill sets to be able to work in these jobs, because academically they may be up to scratch in terms of university degrees or high school education, but experience-wise, a lot of the extracurricular activities have not been done. And when we can raise this part of it, when we are able to give opportunity in terms of programs that can help bring them up to par in other areas other than pure knowledge alone, I think they can be perfect in the workplace just like anyone else. So basically, I think the first thing is empowering the disabled person to be equipped enough to be in the workforce, be an equal contributing member of society. Let's not make things easy for these people, because let me give you an example. If my employee is disabled, I bend the rules and I make things easy for him. I let him get off work at 4 o'clock, where everybody else gets off work at 5 o'clock. There is going to be a lot of dissatisfaction from the rest of the employees towards this one disabled employee. Give them the freedom and ability to reach their potential and what they can do, and empower them, give them the tools. What equipment can help them do their jobs the same as their other colleagues who are not visually impaired, for example? Would a computer that has a speech software help them, or training in terms of customer service orientation, would that make them help them be equal with the rest of their colleagues? From the colleagues' point of view, the regular able-bodied colleagues, the best strategy to help them be more inclusive towards the disabled is the company leading by example as well, having it very clearly communicated that we are an inclusive employer, and we want to build an inclusive community. So all of you employees are equal in that sense, and we get to where we are, we get promotions, we get bonuses, we get recognized for what we achieve, and not because whether we are disabled or not. And that's where everybody can learn to respect each other. First and foremost, I think society needs to have a certain amount of socio-economic maturity before they're able to start looking at and thinking about different issues in society. Of course, disability being one of them, right? 50 years ago, when many of the ASEAN countries first started, we were dealing with a lot of internal issues that we were facing moving away from our colonial masters, dealing with communism, putting food on the table, all of these things, and there wasn't enough headspace to look at how we can be more inclusive or how we can have a more balanced life for everybody. However, I think today, as ASEAN is 50 years old, we are in a much better place. We may not be as mature as the Western countries like Europe and the US and Australia, but certainly ASEAN, I think, is mature enough at age 50 to start looking at how we can change mindsets. I mean, one simple thing is how we communicate to our children. You know, it's quite common that when I walk with my guide dog along, I hear, I might not be able to see, but I hear mothers telling their children, if you misbehave yourself and you always watch TV, one day you'll be blind too and you'll have to walk around with the dog, so poor thing. So when we condone and encourage conversations like this intergenerationally with our children, what are we doing? We are raising a generation of Southeast Asian children to not be as inclusive. So what can I'd like to challenge each of you today, what can we go home and do within our family, within our community, within our organization that will make a small change? Because it's a collective change at the end of the day that we need. Yes, one person like myself, there's only so much I can do, but with all of you that is here joining me today, sharing in a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, I think we can nudge more change that's needed amongst the 17 million disabled people and bring their level of poverty up by a tiny little bit, each step at a time. I would say that the first place you start is drafting out your standard, regular criteriums, what you're looking for in an employee to fill the roles, and then take this, go to either the universities that are in Cambodia itself or the NGOs that are dealing with different disabilities to go, hey, do you have anyone that fits this bill and able to do this job? Because they would be the best point of contact here in Cambodia in terms of that. Thank you very, very much, each and all of you, for contributing the different things that you have shared today. They're all very, very valid in this topic of disability dilemma. ASEAN is certainly heading into the next realm, the next sphere, and we are definitely heading for the next growth in ASEAN's economy. Don't leave our disabled countrymen behind. Let them be a part of this economic boom as well. Let us give them an opportunity, and the best way that we can do so is not to give them any special treatment. Treat them as disabled people, as regular folks. Expect the same things from us as you would from your able-bodied children or colleagues or friends. Yes, there are some things we can't do, but we can always find ways to work around them. So it's the attitude that we have towards disabled people. If we don't cut them any slack and they're expected to be an equal contributing member of society, we can learn to respect them and they can learn to respect themselves. And that gap that there is today will be a lot smaller in the years to come. Thank you.